Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to our Friday live stream. I hope you all are doing well. I'm going to zoom in on the, what is? There we go. Oh, wait, no, it's still, what is that? Is it like a sponge? What is this? I don't know. All right, it was just something that's like kind of in front of the camera somehow, but there we go. Hi, Papita. Hello, little girl. All right, we are here. Welcome, everybody. Hope you all are having a pleasant Friday. It is finally warm weather here. I'm so excited. It's going to be 90 on Sunday, which I know a lot of people are going to be upset about, but that I am excited for because only one day. Only one day. Weird to have 90 degrees the first week of May. That is unusual. But it's only one day, so it'll be fine. All right, let me get the chat connected here. We do have our Q&A up, which could either be a white box or it could be a black box at the top or the bottom of your chat feed. Because why not have it be different for everyone everywhere, just to make it very easy for me to verbally describe. I think actually it's like the white box seems to have, oh right, no, when I do that it still is a white box. I don't know why. Yeah, that is definitely the doggo camera. 94 here. That is very warm. Hopefully you have air conditioning. Okay, so before I get into rambling too much, hi, my name's Evie Lupine, and here on my channel every Friday, we hang out and we do a little interactive BDSM, polyamory, kink, relationship, dating app, etc. Q&A, where we talk about things that have been going on in the news and in the world in terms of pop culture and those topics, as well as your questions. The best way to be able to have your question answered is to obviously ask it in the chat. You can either put it directly in the chat, in which case I will try to answer it in the order that it comes in. We also have a Q&A box that'll either be either at the top or the bottom of your chat feed and either white or black. So look for something that says Q&A. Ask your questions here. If you see that, click on that, put in your question. That will also keep your question private from the rest of the chat. So if you don't want other people to see your question, it's more private that way. If you would like to skip to the front of the queue, you can use a super chat or go to Streamlabs and donate down below. And that will make it so the question shows up on screen right away, and then it'll be the next thing that I answer whenever I wrap up whatever it is I am currently discussing. So other than that, some rules you need to know. This is an 18+ only stream, as always, because we are adults talking about adult topics. This is not a space for minors. We also have some very brief rules down below. Basically, be respectful, don't spam the chat, listen to me, listen to the mods. And be polite, and that's all you really got to do. There are certain things that I don't give advice about, so if you're looking for medical advice about like an injury, whether or not you should go to the doctor, if something's like infected, I can't help you with that. Go see a doctor. So that's what you need to know about this. Hopefully y'all are doing well. Also, we always end up with more questions than I can answer in any live stream. So last time I took a picture of the questions, and I thought that we could start out today as like a new thing that I could get to some of the questions I did not get to last time. Once I get past all the pictures of Bandit and hummus in my phone, I found the questions, and I thought we could get to some of those just to get us started here while we're doing some chitting and chatting. Only see the chat box on your pop-out chat, not the actual chat anyone else. Oh, actually, you know what? I can check on my end, and I can look and see what it looks like for a viewer, I think. Let me see here. So at least on mobile, the way that I see it is it's a picture of me, the actual chat, then it's a notification that says in subscribers only mode, and then right before you can type, it says Q&A, ask your question here. Now, it's the same color as the rest of the boxes, so it doesn't really stick out anymore, but the Q&A should still, like, be a button that's there. Just so you know. Started a new diet today, and I'm feeling energized for it. Heck yeah. Good luck on the diet. Diets are annoying, but sometimes beneficial. Hopefully that goes well. It's always good when you're excited about it and not when you're like, oh, I can't believe I gotta do this again, you know? Actually related, somehow your age gap discourse video a year ago randomly appeared in my algorithm, not even as a related video, straight on the homepage. That is very funny. Although, I guess it is one of those topics that would break containment. Like, it's kind of like the Ned Fulmer thing, right? Like, Ned Fulmer, age gap discourse, dating app stuff. Those are things that definitely have to do with, you know, kink and polyamory, but they also very much go outside of that too, especially age gaps. Like, there's a reason it's a joke that people will say, oh, I should be careful, I should tap away from this so I don't accidentally unmute myself. Usually people joke about, like, oh my god, 24 and 22, problematic age gap. Like, that's just a thing. That's just TikTok culture. That's just what happens. Okay, you needed to refresh it? Alright, maybe it had something weird to do with the stream starting. I don't know. If we stay on topic, I fear YouTube's filter is going to be brutal in the comments. Okay, that is actually weird. I don't normally get very many bot comments on my YouTube channel. It used to be a problem a lot more a couple years ago, and YouTube had, actually, that is one of the things that YouTube has done well in the last couple of years, is even with the influx of AI, like, I don't really see spam comments on my YouTube stuff or in live streams or anything really that much anymore. It does happen occasionally, still, to be clear. But for some reason, this video that I just posted about CNC, that's the one that caused a lot of bot comments. And it's like, I always like link to my videos on Twitter. Like, it's not just because I was like, oh, well, outside links got shared or something. Like, no, that's a normal thing. But it's like very obvious because they all talk the same and they all use semicolons. They've caught up. You can't use the M dash anymore. They're on semicolons. Just look at which is a shame because I love both a semicolon and an M dash. I write with those all the time. Basically have the whole time I've been writing YouTube video content. Like, they're the backbone of how I communicate to myself in a script where I should pause and cadence and things like that. But bots love them, so saw a lot of that. A lot of bots having arguments with each other about CNC. That was weird and interesting. And also people I think my favorite one that I saw, that I posted a screenshot of to Twitter, was a bot that left a comment that said, CNC should be illegal. It's like, my brother in Christ, how do you do that? My bot in Christ. My bot in Christ. How do you make something consensual illegal without just making all of human sexuality illegal in the process or opening the door for that? You just don't. If it's non-consensual, it's already illegal. It's already against the law, or it's an extreme moral failing to commit those acts, and even if you will not have legal consequences, you will have moral ones. Oh, thank you, Sean, and welcome to being a 16th month member. That's so exciting. 16. I don't know why I said 16th. Like, it's your 16th birthday. 16-month subscriber. Bandita is, well, her name's Bandit, but that's her summoning word, so I don't, like, usually call her that. That's, like, her sleeper cell activation word. So I just call her Bandita. But she's right there on the floof, as you can see, snoozing up a storm as she does. I don't know, she just, like, locks in. She knows when it is streaming time, and she's like, it is time for my daily couch nap, and she loves it. She loves her daily couch nap. But yeah, it's a small dog. But yeah, CNC, some reason apparently attracts bot comments and like to say that it should be illegal. And it's like, well, the parts of it that are bad are already a crime, so what you want to make illegal is the consent part. You want to make roleplay illegal. You want to make roleplay illegal. You want to make police, nurse, like sexy doctor roleplay illegal. That's cool. That's awesome. Bots. But the problem, and I know people will say, and I do understand this argument. People will say, well, it's all like bot comments, dead internet theory, it's bots, don't respond to them. But the problem is it's not just, when it's bots talking to each other, it's funny. But when you have people, getting opinions from things that originally came from bots or got perpetuated by a bot network, that's why bots are a problem. Like, if bots were just like hanging out in their own lane, typing random shit that didn't matter on social media, like, who cares, right? Okay, number go up for daily active users, Twitter's happy, who cares? But when you have bot accounts that become influential, that do affect people's real opinions and the way that they live their lives and how they do the relationships and how they treat strangers, like, that does actually matter, even if it's like, oh, well, it's just a bot saying it, so who cares? I'm like, well, okay, maybe originally it was a bot thing, but now it very much isn't. And yes, and welcome to Twixie for also being, I think that was also a 16th month membership, and Lena for also becoming a Loopinator. Welcome. So you can become a member. It is 99 cents. It is so you can use emotes in the chat if you would like, and you also get a very cute Pomeranian badge next to your name. That is, I think, very cute, and it also has, there's a little, if you look closely, if you become a member for a year or more, you get a little bandit one that has a very tiny crown. And I think that's adorable. And I had it custom made, and you can barely see the details, but I don't care. It's cute. Anyways, 19. Well, you're in months, you're officially, you're like, I don't know, it's like above the age of majority in most places, so congratulations. People basing their opinions on the internet comment sections is alarming. Well, it's not even just comment sections, it's just like Twitter discourse, TikTok stuff. Like, I know people say, well, the internet isn't real life, and it's, the younger someone is, the more likely it is that their entire or majority of their social outlet is the internet. So, I mean, it's the same thing as like, I don't know, Andrew Tate. Passe reference, I think, in this day and age. But, Andrew Tate is just one stupid idiot guy who has stupid, dumb opinions. But even though he, to most people, is very obviously selling dangerous ideas or is selling ideas that don't work, that to a 12-year-old, they don't know any better. To an 18-year-old that didn't really get a lot of good education about relationships growing up, still influential, even to like maybe older bitter people who are divorced and are angry about their ex-wife, convincing to them, right? And a lot of Andrew Tate stuff was propped up by bot networks, and a lot of Manosphere content is propped up by bot networks, and there's a lot of things on the internet that are primarily propped up by bot networks that end up influencing a lot of people as a result of that. Like, the ideology starts out as being like 5 actual people for real, and then with enough synthetic support, suddenly it grows to like thousands of people and tens of thousands, and then it actually becomes a wide-scale political issue because, unfortunately, like, fucking, like, what was the thing that, like, Trump did the other day, other than the thing that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner? Like, before that happened, he did something with Joe Rogan. Like, basically, Joe Rogan, like, talked him into legalizing a bunch of drugs for, like, veteran PTSD stuff. So, like, our government is ran on, like, people on social media's opinions about things. Like, we live in a very vibes-based time, so unfortunately bots do matter. Anyways, that's my argument for why, even if something is technically started by bots, it is still important to counteract that narrative and give alternate, detailed opinions as a real-life, flesh-and-blood human being with lived experience, because otherwise, you're just gonna let the bots dominate the conversation? I don't think so. That's my opinion, but doesn't mean that you as a random individual who is not a professional content creator should get into those conversations. I think you shouldn't. If this is not your job, don't talk to bots. Don't argue. Don't get into Twitter fights. If that's fun to you, if that's entertaining, go for it, okay? Fine. But if you're emotionally invested in this as like an important thing, like, don't have one-on-one arguments with bots. It's not your job. Don't stress yourself out. Leave it to the professionals. Leave it to me to damage my mental well-being on your behalf. The AI Google summary is scarily inaccurate, and it sucks that this is the first thing that pops up. You know, I hadn't even thought about looking, because I have that turned off, I think, or I try to avoid looking at it. I've never actually, if I Google that, what is the AI summary? Well, first of all, it shows you computer, like CNC machines and computer numerical control, which everyone always makes jokes about. Everyone thinks they're so funny, and they make jokes about that in the comments of my video. Like, oh, this is going to be about, machining. And I'm so shocked it wasn't. I'm like, I'm sure you were. The thumbnail said, like, I find kink people to be disgusting. I'm sure you thought this was going to be about machinery, because I visually look like the kind of person who would make machining content on YouTube. For sure. All right, what is CNC BDSM? All right, it actually doesn't seem to give any kind of a... Like CNC play, maybe? Plywood. That's plywood. Oh, okay. So if you do CNC play, it does give you an overview. The overview says, it seems to, for of all fucking things, their main source seems to be the Natural Cycles website, which for some godforsaken reason, when you don't know Natural Cycles, I have beef with them. Natural Cycles is the reason why so many people, first of all, had accidental pregnancies. Probably directly related to people being obsessed with, like, oh my god, I'm ovulating, so that means I'm clinically insane type discourse. But they basically give you a thermometer that does basal body temperature tracking, and it's supposed to help you avoid pregnancy, but it's actually not really good at that, because most people are really bad at taking their basal body temperature correctly. So according to Google, solely sourcing from a singular Natural Cycles webpage, and an answer from Reddit on r/relationship advice. CNC play, which stands for consensual non-consent, is a type of BDSM edge play where participants, through extensive prior negotiation, agree to engage in sexual scenarios, that simulate non-consensual behavior. It involves acting out scenarios that would be illegal or abusive in real life, such as rape play, kidnapping, or forced seduction within a controlled, safe environment. Again, like, I mean, those things are CNC. They absolutely can be CNC, but it's not all inclusive in a kink context. This is not like the full picture of CNC. It's making it about, like, resistance, pre-negotiation. The examples it gives are like kidnapping and sleep and free use and all of that kind of thing. So it's a very standard definition of these things, very standard, but I guess not surprising all told. Yeah, don't get me started on cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, just like so many of those things where CBT, CNC, yes. Dual meanings exist. To be fair, the CNC jokes are funny. You just have heard the same joke 500 times. That's true. I think if I wasn't a YouTuber who got those comments every single time I talk about CNC, by the dozens, it would be a lot funnier. The first couple times it was funny. And then again, 500 times later, it's like, do you want a cookie? I have Oreos in the pantry. Do you want one? What do you want? What do you want? What did you think of Sydney Sweeney dressing up as ABDL in Euphoria? I actually love seeing my community shown despite the backlash. That's an interesting perspective. I think most people, no, I'm not an ABDL, so I'm not, I don't do DDLG, don't do anything. The closest thing I get to that is pet play, which also was in Euphoria, and I was offended by it because the outfit was terrible, and it wasn't it was the most half-hearted ass bark I've never heard somebody half-heartedly bark in a Valley Girl accent before. It's very disconcerting, but I wasn't a fan of that. But I could see why, especially because representation of that is so limited. It is almost exclusively negative. Having anything that's even maybe neutral, or at least isn't ridiculed directly in the media, would probably be seen as a benefit, or at least oh my god, they aren't literally calling us insane, so that's an improvement. But for my perspective, this is a general kink thing. I think, one, there's a level of it of, you know, I think they are showing it partly to, you know, rely on the disgust response of the audience. That is the primary way that Euphoria seems to be marketing itself these days, is to get negative press, negative attention, be really intentionally salacious, because the show clearly cannot stand up on its own merit, so it has to rely on shock value and disgust for audiences that are like, oh my god, this is pedophilia, this is disgusting, you know, Sam Levinson is a freak and he's a bad guy, and this is just like another example of how terrible he is and the things he makes his actors do, and yada yada yada. I think the other angle of it is it's not representative of, like, it's offensive as like a sex work thing, like showing a sex worker specifically making that kind of content, because you can't do that. Like, you like there's not, like, you have to be on like very specialty independent websites for the most part to be able to make content even adjacent to that. Like, that kind of thing is not allowed on Patreon or OnlyFans or Fansly. If you're doing any kind of dress up, you know, ABDL, diaper role play, you know, verbal DDLG role play, unless you're a very small creator who is somehow flown under the radar of automatic censorship, most kink is not allowed on most of the websites now, like especially OnlyFans. Fansly is a lot more wiggle room. I know a lot of people that, you know, have good, I don't know, traction, maybe, let's say, on Fansly, that make kind of more kinky adult content. But, you know, you can't do that kind of stuff. You can't like, UK just, you know, is dealing with legislation around wanting to ban, you know, any kind of step content. You know, Patreon's very restrictive around any kind of DDLG or ABDL content, even when it's adults only educational content. Most adult platforms do not allow you to make content where you dress up or use diapers or use certain terminology or wear like clothing that seems like too cutesy and too childlike, even if it is very clearly in the context of these are two adults doing a consensual role play. They both understand they're adults. This is not trying to simulate, you know, somebody to look like a child. And I know that I'm sure somewhere in the reaches of the internet, because the internet is a very vast, terrible place, that there are people who make content that is more meant to simulate an actual child. Like, they find actors who are like, you know, under 5 foot tall and are flat chested. And, you know, they do stuff that's maybe meant to more closely replicate illegal content, as opposed to people that are drawn to ABDL and DDLG stuff for different reasons. But it's just like, oh yeah, you can make a prestige HBO television show with a multi-million-dollar budget to show actors play acting badly as sex workers for the titillation of an audience. So I guess it is kind of like weirdly sort of still sex work adjacent if it's meant primarily to be like stimulating for the audience to watch. Certainly stimulating for Sam Levinson, I'm sure, as a writer and a producer to make that kind of content, the entire thing that he does on the show. But it's I don't know. Most people I know that do sex work, like, find it offensive because it's misrepresenting what's even allowed. And it's weird to me that you have this dichotomy of what mainstream celebrities are allowed to do, what Hollywood is allowed to do, and then what actual everyday people are allowed to do in the privacy of their own homes as a career to make ends meet. And you can go on the red carpet virtually naked, and I mean virtually, very intentionally there, like virtually naked, showing full tits, full nipple, full ass crack, full bush on the red carpet, and that photos get posted everywhere. They get shared on social media. They're not censored. They're not restricted. They're not age gapped. They're not age gated. They're just allowed out in the open, and it's talked about, and it's a trend. And you see dozens of celebrities doing this. Like, it's all over the place, and that's fine. But then when you're on YouTube, I can't say the word fetish. I can't say the word sex. There's so many. I can't put the word BDSM in a title without it getting age restricted. Like, not age restricted, but getting demonetized, right? So celebrities can have one set of rules. Everyday people have a different set of rules. And then you have the same thing happening with, you know, actual people trying to make adult content that's in a closed environment for adults that's age restricted. And that's not allowed. Even just saying certain words. You can't say, like, tiny or little, isn't it? You can't say those words anymore. Anything on step siblings you can't say anymore. Like just verbal restrictions on what you can put in text on a post is a non-starter. But then you have celebrities that are just matron actors play acting for a little bit on screen for the enjoyment of an audience, even beyond what is against the rules on these websites. And I find that to be offensive. But if we're just talking about like community representation, it's a little bit of a different scenario for sure. Isn't finding incredibly young looking actors with braces just like the standard barely legal porn industry thing? I you know what? That's not I couldn't tell you. I've never looked, couldn't tell you. But I imagine there's probably people who get like fake braces, or because teenagers these don't even get ceramic braces. Everyone gets Invisalign. Does everyone get Invisalign now? I can't even tell you the last time I saw an actual flesh and blood teenager with real braces. It's probably since I was a teenager, probably like college. It's like a dying thing. It's gonna be like schoolgirl uniforms, just completely antiquated, just like completely anachronistic, only preserved in porn as a cultural thing, which is kind of interesting actually in its own way, but different. Where can I find such a funny question? Where can I find? I was what? People ask me these questions, and I was like, "What do you think I'm gonna say? Where can I find a sub in South Carolina?" What do you think I'm gonna tell you? You need to go. Listen, I'll tell you where to find a sub in South Carolina. All right. I don't even know what's a city in South Carolina. I know North Carolina a little bit. I don't know anything about South Carolina. It doesn't even show me a single city. It shows me Wilmington and Savannah, neither of which are in South Carolina. I'm pretty confident. What is... Oh, Columbia. Oh, no, Charleston. We'll do Charleston. All right, you go to Charleston. Charleston, you go to the corner of 73rd and Liberty Street. Go to 73rd and Liberty Street. And on the left-hand side, like, you know, second in from the crosswalk, there's a bar. That's the bar is called Linda's Sweet Spot. You go to Linda's Sweet Spot on Liberty and 73rd. And you go to the bar and you ask the bartender, you say, I want a submissive. And they'll say, I got you. And then they'll press a button. And then they'll let you in to a secret invite-only back room that's full of submissives. And that's how you find a submissive in South Carolina. What do you think? It's the same answer every time. You go to FetLife. You make an account. You put in... Go to the events tab. You put in South Carolina. You find 50-kilometer radius around where you live, okay? Find a munch. Go to the munch. Meet people. Talk to them. Make friends. Go to parties. Then you'll find a submissive. That's the actual answer. But you could also try finding Linda's Sweet Spot on 73rd and Liberty. You could also look for that. Does South Carolina have a Blimpies or a Subway? So yeah, it's true. Go to any Subway in South Carolina. Yeah, just every little known fact, every employee of Subway is a sub. The feel when you clip into the back rooms and it's just full of littles and puppy girls. I think that's what happens if you go to the Eagle. And possibly there's a couple other joints, but definitely the Eagle gonna have a lot of puppy girls in it these days. A lot of puppy thems, a lot of puppy boys, a lot of just regular old puppies, like kittens even. Sometimes a parrot. It's good eatings out there if you're into pet play. It's Linda's Sweet Spot is a hecka name for a bar, to be fair. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck do we even call a bar? I don't know. I'm just picturing something that has like one of those like neon signs out front, I was picturing it has something where it's got like a sort of a Dolly Parton-esque lady with like a gingham like tie front top and like high-waisted Daisy Dukes and like really big blonde hair, kind of reclining back and then like pouring a drink into a glass. Like that was sort of what I was picturing for the sign in my head. But yeah, my only advice is just do not message random girls asking them to be your submissive. And also, do not make your profile pic a picture of your dick. Yes, recommend both of those maneuvers. Excellent advice. Other thing I'd recommend is I have a whole video that's called How to Use FetLife. Go and watch that. And don't be a creep. Don't be weird. Don't comment on every single photo that someone has ever posted to FetLife. Don't cold call people at all, just in general. Don't send them a message that's like, will you be my sub? Don't be weird. Be normal and you will have results. And you know what? If you think you don't know what to do socially on the internet, go in person and meet people that way. You might be better at it. You might be worse. But you know what you can't do in real life? Comment on every single one of someone's photos and then making yourself look like a real freak. So I think that's the main benefit. Yeah, also read people's bios. Yeah, if you're actually serious about messaging people, like if you really want to find someone on FetLife, I still wouldn't recommend doing it this way. But if you are going to message someone, at least read their bio first. At least do them, because you're usually not that long. If you are serious about someone, it's going to give you good information. Just read the freaking bio. Maybe mention something in the bio that you connected with or you liked and say, hey, you know, maybe you have a reason to message them. Maybe you have a reason. Maybe you're both going to the same event and you're new and for some fucking reason they seem friendly. Maybe they put on their page that they remember the welcome wagon. I don't know. You can say, hey, I saw that you're going to the same event as me. I'm new. It seems like you've been before and you're part of the welcome wagon. You know, would it be okay if I introduce myself? You know, just a real nice little polite message. Shows you read the profile because they said they were in the welcome wagon, okay? And also, if they say specifically in big old capital letters, do not message me, I will not reply. Don't message them. You're not going to be the exception. You're not going to get a reaction. You're just going to be blocked. And then you're not going to get to see their beautiful, wonderful photos you like so much anymore. So, you know, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, honestly, on that one. Can you explain more on how you said porn addiction isn't real? I'd love to hear this perspective. So I don't have like data in front of me to cite live in a live stream format. So I can't flesh out my perspective as much as I would in another way of communicating. But my understanding is, based on the research of sexuality experts that I generally recommend and trust and that I believe do good work, whether it's, you know, with kink or human sexuality or anything in that realm, people that I know to be trustworthy, good researchers and psychologists do not believe it is real. The data doesn't bear that out. Mostly what we call porn addiction seems to actually be a correlation of sexual shame and internalized stigma around sexuality and masturbation. And the main way that I have seen this be explained is that when you look at research and you have a whole bunch of men and you look at their like number of days a week they look at porn, volume of porn they look at, type of porn they look at, what age they started looking at pornography, you look at all of these factors, there's no correlation amongst most people for like volume, frequency, like intensity of the porn. There's like, it's all over the place. And you have people that will self-describe as, you know, being addicted that look at porn once a week. and people who look at porn 3 times a fucking day that like don't experience any distress, don't experience any negative impact on their lives, on their relationships, on their mental well-being, any of the things you would look at if you were looking for something as an addiction. And the main thing that there actually seems to be a correlation with is not anything to do with, you know, all those other factors, but instead religious and or moral beliefs around masturbation, porn consumption, and relationships, right? So if you believe that porn consumption is sinful and wrong and will damage your body, damage your relationships, that's a result of you not being able to control yourself, that it's a moral failing, that it's some kind of temptation or like sickness, or if you essentially have some really strong negative belief about porn consumption, you are infinitely more likely to self-describe as having an addiction versus somebody that doesn't have those same belief systems, that consumes just as much, if not more, than you do. So it's more of a reflection of like puritanical sex beliefs. And also there's like all sorts of things connected to like the advent of the term sex addiction or porn addiction, the way that it gets used either to, you know, wash the moralities of people who are sex criminals or who have like, you know, violated their spouses or things like that. Big question from Twixie. I will get to that shortly. I'm going to wrap this up and then we will get to this question right here, which I'm very excited to get to. But essentially, you know, it's more to do with the moral beliefs, and sex addiction has a lot of weird stuff around just the way it was created, why it was created, the groups that perpetuate a belief in this, the groups that benefit from a belief in sex and porn addiction, and how it has been used. You know, people go to like sex addiction camps. They go to porn addiction camps. And, you know, people will come out and they'll use it as an excuse to say, oh, well, you know, yes, I did violate all these women's consent and this and that and the other, but it wasn't my fault. It's because I had a porn addiction, right? And then they'll go and say that they're cured because they went to a porn addiction camp. And there's very rarely any genuine, real, scientific basis for the ways that those things are operated and their outcomes and everything else. And so, like, but also like the addiction recovery complex is a whole other can of worms, because there's a lot of very bad, shady, unhelpful addiction therapy programs and addiction treatment center programs, and that's a whole other thing. But short TLDR, I guess, or TLDL. Too long didn't listen. Response to that is there's not any sort of strong scientific evidence of porn addiction being a thing. Yeah, so that's the long and short of it. You know, it's also a very anti-sex worker and very pro-shaming. Yeah. And this is, I should, maybe as a final thought to that, I will say, I do think that you can consume porn in a problematic way, right? I think that you can use it as a maladaptive coping mechanism, but maladaptive coping mechanisms are not always addictions. Like, somebody maladaptively sleeping for 12 hours a day is not an addiction to sleep. It's a maladaptive coping mechanism that uses sleep as the coping mechanism. Right? Does that difference make sense? Right? There are people who have, and like sometimes, you know, there's a gray area, right? There are things that are maladaptive coping mechanisms that can become addictions, right? Like maybe we're looking at something like binge eating disorder. Maybe we could think of, maybe I don't know a lot about that, but maybe that makes more sense to look at from like an addiction perspective. But oftentimes with that, the consumption of food is part of a maladaptive coping mechanism at the same time. Like, I'm trying to think of like another good example that crosses that line, but you know, there are things that people will do that are not like a lot of like, there's a lot of like avoidance strategies that people will use for dealing with intense emotions or intense situations that are not like, you know, that are coping mechanisms that maybe aren't great, that hurt their lives, but are not addictions, and it would be unfair to call them addictions. But for some reason with porn and sex, we tend to like treat them differently. Yeah. Anyways, hopefully that was a helpful answer. I I don't think it's real that porn addictions exist, but I do think there are people who can't control themselves and can and will use it to hurt their partners. I've had several partners do it to me. And that's when I get into the maladaptive coping mechanism part. Like, that's like, yes, you can have a non-beneficial, unhealthy relationship to porn, but that doesn't make it an addiction any more than, like, you know, somebody that has, like, you know, again, sleeps excessively or... you know, doesn't respond to their text messages, like has an addiction, you know, and I don't like, I haven't had any issues with like problematic porn consumption with partners. I don't know. I can't speak to that and what that's like. I've certainly never had anyone intentionally use porn to hurt me. I don't know what that means exactly. Like, how would you use porn to hurt somebody else? Maybe it's like, you know, forcibly showing it to someone or using it as like a guilt tripping thing, like, oh my god, I have to use porn because you're not willing to do this for me. Like, I can see that kind of thing happening, maybe. Yeah, it's a misogyny is definitely a thing. Oh yeah, there's all the far right beliefs around pornographers corrupting society. Yeah, there's a lot of it too. Meanwhile, Nazi upper echelon actually had like addictions to methamphetamines or some kind of amphetamines. I don't know, maybe it wasn't meth, but you know, it's like they're all like, those people over there are corrupting society and have addictions. Do not look at the drug consumption that we are all partaking in over here. The actual addiction that's really happening. But you know, that's kind of classic far right stuff, right? Addictions for me, not for thee. Rules for you and not for me. That's how that works. All goes back to grifting. Anyways, let's not pathologize human sexuality. That's my belief, and I am sticking to it. Yeah, I look at porn addiction the same way I look at addiction to smoking weed. It's possible to be emotionally or psychologically attached to it, but you can't be chemically dependent on it. Yeah, and I guess also we get into the weeds around like chemical dependence versus psychological addictions versus, you know, having a habit around something. And I think that's probably what most people run into, is they have a habit. Right, but not all strongly like neurological habits are addictions. Yeah, very like clavicular. Is he arrested yet? I both see that he's been arrested and is facing charges, but then I also like see photos and videos of him like opening clubs and like going to events. So who even knows what's going on with that guy? Don't get me started. All right, I'm going over to Twixie's question. I'm ready to have a conversation with my boyfriend / Dom around my... Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to look up what this stands for, but it's just so I know. I'm not going to maybe read it out loud depending on what it is. But COCSA and being groomed. How do I do this without getting too heavy for him? I don't want a situation where I'm pouring my heart out and he needs to save for it. Oh, yeah, so I think that's a good point. You're trying to approach this in a thoughtful way where you want to communicate what your experience is and be heard, but not do it in a way that's overwhelming. Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. I found I'm not going to read it out loud, but I did find the abbreviation. I'm not saying this is like the best method to do it or the perfect method to do it. But what I have generally done with partners when I'm trying to communicate stuff around trauma and like past experiences is the first step is like naming that it exists and then like how it affects your relationship, but then like not going into detail or how it affects like consent and safe words and things like that. And not going into any detail about the experience, just so kind of putting it out there that it exists. Like for example, you know, I'm negotiating particulars with a partner about bondage. I might tell them, hey, just so you know, I have trauma around like my legs forcibly being spread apart. And just kind of putting it there. Okay, there's trauma that exists, so they know like the why behind why I don't like that. And they can ask questions if they want to. They don't usually. They just say, oh, okay, like I get that. Like, no problem. We don't have to do that. and then kind of the thing that it very specifically affects. And then when it gets into going from negotiating around a particular thing into a relationship, then it gets more into the details of, you know, I have trauma around, or like my trauma triggers are like these kinds of things, like whatever actions or words or whatever things it is to you that you can kind of bullet point out of like, here's triggers to be aware of. Again, kind of more focusing on the specific actions and knowing what to do around that. Again, I'm also assuming that you haven't done that. I'm just starting from like the very, very basics of like step 0 to, you know, step 5 of this process and how I would generally approach it. So it's, you know, so it's not just like out of nowhere, a complete shock when it does come up that this even exists in the first place. And then from there, once it's kind of been established in the way that it affects your relationship on a very discrete basis, getting into the more granularity of, okay, this is like, I want to share this experience with you and what I actually went through. And I think, obviously, number one, again, I'm being very general, I think that you would do this, but just to say it, you know, make sure you're approaching that conversation with intentionality over, you know, we're going deeper into this relationship and I'm really excited about it. But I think as we're going deeper into this relationship, I think it would be smart for us to have a conversation about what exactly it was that I experienced. So that way, you know, and just in case anything comes up, right, you have that knowledge already. So being thoughtful about the conversation, being specific about what things you want to share. And then from there, I think one thing that can definitely happen is getting lost in the traumatic experience as you're recounting it, and that causing you to go to a different place, or maybe to like ramble on and like maybe go into more detail than you originally wanted to. So I think setting up something for both of you ahead of time, like maybe talking about what you might go through in the conversation, like as you're recounting it, like, okay, you know, you'll know if I'm here present in the moment, if I do these behaviors, if you see me do this, it means I'm kind of getting lost in the experience, and here's what I want you to do to help like pull me back. So for you, maybe you can mostly recount it fine. Maybe like certain moments you might kind of like stop making eye contact and kind of like get a glazed look on your face, or like lose the emotion in your voice or something. Like if you can identify what those things might be, telling your partner about them ahead of time is a good idea, so that way they know what to do if you're starting to kind of disassociate and disconnect, and like if there's anything they can do to kind of help you bring you back, that you know helps for that moment. That's kind of on more on your end. And then for your partner's end of like making sure that they're comfortable, laying out very clearly that, you know, this is why I want to share this with you. If you're uncomfortable for any reason, like please feel free to, you know, let me know. And for yourself, I would pre-plan in, like, as opposed to just like going through the whole experience all at once, like chronologically from beginning to end, kind of maybe going through it piece by piece, almost kind of like you're having a discussion group around it a little bit of like, I'm going to share a little bit and then we're going to check in. And then we're going to share a little bit and then we're going to check in. And I think that'll also help you from getting lost in the experience. You can still go through it chronologically, but just like breaking it up helps it not be so overwhelming, I think, for either party. And so there's natural breakpoints where maybe if they might be reluctant to otherwise interrupt you, there's a natural pause there. So if they do have questions or concerns, or they maybe need to like take time to let what you're communicating sink in, you have that already prepared. I think another thing that you can do ahead of time is, if you feel capable of doing it, writing out what you want to share ahead of time, not necessarily as a full script, but putting down something more detailed than a bullet point, but not full paragraphs of like directly planning everything you want to say, of like, here's the big things that I want to go over, and giving yourself the knowledge that you've written it out, you know what you want to say, you have a plan, and that helps you, I think, stay on track when you are communicating and not going out too much into the weeds, and knowing you have something to go back to if you do find yourself like getting lost and like not knowing what else to communicate. But I think hopefully if you're just kind of doing it intentionally, very step by step, it'll help help it not be so heavy for both of you, and hopefully it'll give you both like space for you to recognize what you're sharing and to get that acknowledgement from your partner, to get that reassurance, and also for them to not like, you know, it is overwhelming to communicate super intensely, you know, these big things, and to, you know, have maybe like an hour or 2 hour long conversation. You don't want to just like ramble for that amount of time. And thank you so much for the 20 gifted subs. It's very generous. I'm gonna those from Henry. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hopefully that helped answer your question some, Twixie. And then I think definitely after having this conversation, like, you know, pre-planning in some like aftercare debriefing stuff, you know, whether that's like going for a walk or having a nice little dessert or having a cuddle, whatever, you know, works for the two of you for having that decompression time, making sure that you're, you know, leaving space for that to happen. You're accounting for that as part of what you're doing. It could also be like, you know, maybe you set up a timer. Maybe you decide, where I'm going to go into this for like an hour. I'm going to talk about this for an hour. And then when that hour is up, even if we're not done talking about it, we're going to leave it alone for right now. We're going to revisit this later, you know, come back to it the next day or next week. And then, you know, we'll talk for another hour, and just doing it again, more piece by piece, leaving in time for separation. If you think that, like, you know, maybe it's overwhelming, not necessarily in terms of content, but maybe it needs a lot of discussion, and it could take like 6 hours to go through if you didn't have more of a time limit how much you might be going into. But hopefully that gives you some ideas for how to handle it. I think if you're getting to this stage where you're considering sharing that in detail with a partner, hopefully they're the kind of person where they can sit and hold space for you. And then just like giving them notice, that way they can make sure that they're prepared and that they have time. Also, just to say it too, you know, checking in before you have the planned conversation to make sure, okay, like, are we still in a place where we can have this talk? Because, you know, maybe they had a really bad week at work, or they got in a car accident, or, you know, maybe they got really sick, or something else happened that was a big stressor, and that might reduce their capacity. So just having that moment to check in to make sure, okay, we can do this. But yeah, hopefully that gives you some things to work with. Thank you for the question. I'm going to go back to the chat now. Why is it all grayed out? What's going on there? There we go. Okay. Don't know why my chat was all grayed out. Looking for comments. Looking for questions. Trying to see. Is non-sexual CNC a music factory? Could be. You're telling me this whole music factory is into CNC? Sometimes. Some of them I'm sure are. Oh, I know. I was gonna do... I pulled it up and I didn't do anything with it. I was gonna look at some of the questions we got from last time I didn't get to. Oh, wait, no. Actually, I just saw a different question, so I'm going to answer that, and then we'll maybe do 1 or 2 of these. I'm going through my first kinky breakup. The parties we went to were all events that they organized, so I feel lost. How do I start building my own community and finding play partners in San Francisco, California? Well, Michelle, I am so excited for you, because the great thing about being in the Bay Area is there's a bajillion fucking events. So I don't know if you're like literally in San Francisco, if you're in South Bay, East Bay, Sacramento, Santa Cruz, they all have events. So you might just need to take Caltrain or the BART and go to a different part of the city or the Bay Area and go to somewhere that they didn't go to. And building your own community spaces. I don't know what age you are. If you're in the TNG age bracket, so if you're 35 and under, although I think in the Bay Area they also have Bent, which is 40 and under, so you might want to look into that as well. But maybe go to one of those events if you haven't been to them before. hopefully they weren't an organizer for a TNG event. You didn't say, but I guess that's a possibility. But maybe going to those. There's all kinds of special interest groups in the Bay Area too, and different identity groups as well. Also, thank you so much for the super chat, Lena. I appreciate it. Thank you. I know going through your first kinky breakup is hard, but I think going out and finding community and meeting new people and making friends can be a really good way of getting over a breakup. So I completely support doing that and finding your own people and play spaces and things. And I think looking for events that are in your age group that have common interests with you that are not something that your partner would have gone to is going to be a good way of doing that. And also just like getting your own, just in general, even outside of a breakup, I think it's a really good idea to make spaces your own and meet people on your own, make your own friends, not because, you know, they were this like big organizer who had these parties, but you get to make your own space yourself. You get to develop your own connection outside of a relationship to those spaces and to those people. I think it can be really beneficial regardless. So I'm not gonna, I can't really give you any specifics of like, go to this party, go to this event that's in this space, but just know that when you're in the Bay Area, especially if you can travel, you have tons of options for places to go to. So you're not tied down to just like whatever events your partner was organizing. So thankfully you have a lot of choices. And good luck. Hopefully you find some people. Definitely if you're on FetLife, look for events. If you're in the Bay Area, you don't actually have, you'll get the most stuff if you use FetLife, but there are other apps like Plura that will have some kink events on there. And I think there's another one too. I cannot remember what that one's called though. But Plura is another option potentially for looking for events, but FetLife is going to be your best bet for just in general, regardless. If you are in North America, FetLife is going to be the best place to find information about local events and parties and munches and all that stuff. All right. Get some water here. But good question and good luck. And I'm sorry you're going through a breakup. Hopefully you will find new people that you get along with and move on to bigger and better things. I watched your content for so many years. And I'm just now watching a live stream and the topic is on things I'm super interested in. My skin is now cleared and I'm flourishing. Heck yeah. We are in your lane. Your skin is clear. You are relaxed, etc., etc. I'm so happy for you. Oh no, overheating PC. I'm sorry. Okay, let me see here. Okay, I'm trying to see these questions. Let's see, what one do I want to answer? Oh, this is a good one. This is from John from last week. How common is it for people to first explore the community in middle age? I've long had interest, but never had the courage, diagnosed anxiety, overthinking things. Oh, I think it actually like cut off. Cause it said part 1 and then I got part 4. So I'm just going to answer the actual question that I see, which is how common is it for people to explore the community in middle age? It is very common. There are definitely a lot of people who find it quite early that like know they're kinky right away. They get into it from being like 18 years old and they just hit the ground running and they go to parties and they're in the community for like 20 plus years. That does happen. I would say the majority of people find it later on, especially, you know, like 15, 20 years ago. It was a lot of people found it in middle age, either going through a big life change, you know, going through a divorce, sometimes even going through menopause, you know, they have big changes or moving or something, or their partner would come out to them and they'd find the community that way, where, you know, maybe they got married young or they were in like vanilla relationships for a long time and they just like didn't know that there were other options. And so they don't have any ability to do it when they're younger. So they get into it when they're in their 30s, 40s, and beyond. And I would certainly say that at the majority of events that I go to, the average age is definitely like mid-20s and up. Like I would say the younger age range events that I go to, like if I'm going to like a Dark Odyssey event, for example, a lot of the people there tend to be between, like, I would say on average like 24 and like 37 is kind of the average. But if you're looking at other events, especially like Kinkfest, I think has gotten a younger age range as time has gone on, but looking at like leather events and things like that, those are absolutely very like middle age. Like most people I meet at leather events are in their like mid 40s, mid 50s and up, all the way up to like 60s and 70s. Like you get people all age ranges at leather events. So it depends a little bit on like what individual event you go to or what space you're going to, or even where you live to a certain degree. But a lot of people do not discover kink until their 30s and 40s, or maybe they're into it and they do it privately, but they don't feel like they can go to the community, or they don't know how to find the community. They don't know that there is one. And so very common. And you know, it's, I think maybe the image on the internet is that like kink skews really young, but if anything, like people who are 18, 19, 20 are the odd people out. Like you meet them, they are there, but especially with ticket prices, the time commitment it can take, the majority of people that go to kink events, especially like bigger things like conventions, are going to be older people. So you will definitely not be on your own. It is very, very common. Does that make it harder to find partners? Like sometimes, but I know there are some bigger cities that have events that are for, I don't even know what the abbreviation is, but that are specifically like 40 plus or 45 plus. So you might look for events like that too if you want to make sure you're meeting people that are generally in your age bracket. But even if you end up going to a bunch and it's like, well, these people are all like, you know, half my age or they're like 20 years younger than me, it does happen, but you just go to a different bunch. You're just trying to find somewhere else. Wait until you find like who your people are and like where your vibe is. Arrow Bay is a great resource for finding new events in the Bay because it consolidates a bunch of others. Oh, interesting. Okay, Arrow Bay. Good recommendation. I definitely feel like an oddball, but I've been in the community since second I turned 18. I discovered it way too young. Yeah, I remember even getting into it at like, when I first got into kink when I was like 21, 22. It's like crazy. That's like so long ago now. I feel like there's like just different eras of my life. Like I have pre-kink me and then after kink me. It's my life's radically different. But yeah, it's like I remember being in like my very early 20s, and even then, even up until I was like 25, I was like consistently either the youngest person there or like one of the youngest. Even when I was in TNG, I was like usually one of the youngest. Like I was in TNG spaces and the majority of people I knew were at least 5 years older than me. It's, you know, that's just how it goes. So definitely, especially if you're, I don't know if they said what age they were, because middle age could be a bunch of things, but especially if you mean, but middle age, you mean like 38, that's like, if I had to put together every kink event that I know of, every party I've been to, every person I know who's kinky, and I had to average all of their ages together, the average age, I am completely confident, is somewhere between 37 and 42. I don't know why. I think that's the sweet spot of like, even if you did get married and you have kids, like usually they're a little older, so you have like, you can get a babysitter, you have time to kind of go on dates and do stuff by yourself. You're at a point in your career where you have more free time and, you know, maybe like especially more available income to like afford to go to parties and like buy toys and things like that. You know, a lot of people are going through like I got divorced era at that age, and you know, sowing their wild oats and exploring themselves outside of their marriage. So lots of things that happen around that point in time. And also just confidence. Also people just saying like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Like letting go of social conventions around what's acceptable sexually and like what their sexuality should look like. Absolutely. I waited till I turned 21 to go to events because I'm already 5 foot, so I wanted to have some grounding of at least having been an adult for a while. I think that's very smart. That is a really good way to do it. Yeah, I feel that. I'm a man, 23, straight, and whenever I go to munches or dungeons, it really is hard to find scene partners that are around my age, share my interests, and aren't already there with someone else. Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of the younger people I know, if they are going to events, they're going with a partner, and usually that partner is older than them. That might just be me self-reporting, because that's like still me. But like now I'm like in the average. I feel like 30s is like the best time to do kink. If you want to do like, I just feel like the 30s is like the peak of life. I'm like stoked about being in my 30s. I feel like I'm just getting into like talking about being in your 30s because I'm 31. But I feel like that's like the point in life where like you've had time to explore, you've had time to learn, you've had time to experiment, and I feel like you're just like so much better at finding compatible partners, knowing your body, knowing what you want from relationships, and then like being able to get it, being able to stick up for your boundaries, having the level of knowledge and expertise to explore safely, the confidence to ask for what you want, the self-knowledge to know what you want in the first place. Like it's just so much better. And the 20s are fantastic. I love 20s are great too. That excitement of exploring and learning is, I mean, that's just, I mean, there's a reason Sub Frenzy exists, right? Like that, like excitement of like, ooh, this is a new exciting thing I can do. Totally appealing, I get it. But getting to the point where you've had the knowledge, you've had the experience, and now you can really put it into practice is just like so good. So if you're like scared of like, oh my God, I'm about to turn 40 and I'm like exploring kink, help me. Like you are in very good company. Lots of people have their big 40th birthday in the kink community doing things for it. So you are in good company for sure. So yeah, 30s are awesome. Dirty 30s, as some people probably call them. All right, I'm gonna try to get to a couple more of these questions. I feel like we're doing a lot of like, I'm getting into the community for the first time type questions. So I'm gonna like put some of these together. Do you have any tips for a single woman going to a dungeon party for the first time? I'll probably go by myself and I'm pretty nervous. Totally understandable. So I am one of those people. First of all, I am a woman. So I am one of those woman people. And I go to parties by myself. Listen, I go to conventions by myself. I am more than happy to just like go around on my own and do my own thing and plan stuff by myself. And like, it's kind of like taking yourself on vacation, honestly. It's like pretty nice. It's like, okay, imagine going to a restaurant by yourself or going on a staycation by yourself or getting a cabin or a bungalow by the beach by yourself. And it's really nerve-wracking because most people think of those things as like partnered activities or like romantic stuff or like it's embarrassing to do by yourself or like it's scary. And it really doesn't have to be. And I think what's really nice about it is like you get to make the experience whatever you want. You get to stay for as long as you want. You get to talk to everyone, do whatever you want. You're not obligated by anybody else's schedule. It's so nice to get to do things on your own. So I think one is just like, let's frame it positively. Like it's not sad to go by yourself. It's not like, oh my God, it's embarrassing because I'm there on my own. Like, that's not at all. I think it can feel intimidating because you might be worried about like, what if people hit on me? What if people try to pressure me into stuff? What if people are like trying to get me to be their unicorn? Like, you know, things can happen, right? Are people going to pressure me? Are they going to be weird? Are they going to treat me respectfully? And I think it depends on like what you want to get out of a first time experience. I think actually, this might seem like weird advice, but if what you want to do is just like fade into the background and you just want to watch, you just want to observe other people, you want to get a sense of the environment, I would not necessarily go to a newbie party the first time. I think if what you want to do is just like chameleon in the background and not be recognized, not have people approach you, because you just want to get a vibe, you want to feel things out, want to see if you like it or not, I would go to, especially if you have a FetLife account, go and see what is like the most popular party that gets RSVP'd to all the time. Like, it's probably going to be like a general popular dungeon night. And it's going to be a lot of the regulars who are going to be there already probably with a full playbook. It's going to be like busy. It's, you know, even if you wanted to do pickup play, you might have space or time for it. And going to a really big popular party, I think actually is like fun energy to be around. And it can be intimidating, but there's a big difference between intimidating as in there's a lot of stuff happening, but I'm not involved with it, and intimidating like, oh my God, everyone knows that I'm new. People are going to approach me. I'm going to have to talk to people. If you don't want to talk, if you don't want to have a conversation, you can just kind of like jellyfish around. I've been to a lot of events by myself, and I've made plans, and I've gone to a lot of events by myself and just like hung out and just like had fun going around. And I even like, you know, people will recognize me from YouTube and they'll talk to me because of that. But, you know, if they don't know who I am, I haven't generally had people like approach me. Part of it is I do wear a mask. So maybe one hack could be if you want to fade into the background, but like it'll stand out depending on where you live. That might not be normal. But if you want to avoid people approaching you, pop on a little black N95. Will definitely stop random people, mostly. Now, you might have one people who comes up to ask you about the mask and why you're wearing it. I've never had that happen. Usually people ask me about my mask, like, wow, that looks really cool. It looks like what is it? Like, you know, they ask, like, thoughtful questions, not aggressive questions about the mask. Never, I wear it in public all the time. And even when I'm in, like, conservative areas, on an airplane, even, like, going to the gym, going to parties, I've never had anyone ask me a negative question about my mask or be weird about it. So that could happen, but hasn't happened to me. So that can be a good way of kind of just like, you know, giving yourself a layer of like, don't talk to me, don't approach me kind of vibes. And that can be helpful. But if what you want is to meet people, get to know people, you know, maybe participate a little bit, you could go to a newbie play party. Those do exist. Go to a taster event. Those are great. You may have heard our live stream correspondent, Sean, sharing their many stories about working at tasting events and going to those. Those are really great events to go to as a new person, especially if you want to play in a contained way, because they're focused on one particular thing happening and it's not quite the same as a regular play party. And if you're going to a newbie focused play party, you're going to be around people that are similar skill level, you know, similar kind of interest potentially as well. They're not going to be probably off the deep end totally of like, I have this crazy like sex machine. You know, they're probably like, I maybe kind of want to try bondage. You know, they're going to be kind of more on your level. So that can be good. But actually, I think probably what will help you more is instead of going to a play party first, is going to a munch. Figure out what munches in the area are popular with like certain parties or are near certain parties. Just like what munch has a lot of people going to it that seems to have a good reputation that a lot of people are going to. And go to that, meet people, put names to faces, you know. It's socializing, and that can be, again, if what you want is just to like kind of watch and be a fly in the wall, don't do this. But if you want to maybe lower the scare factor of a bunch of strangers seeing you at a play party, going to a low pressure, normal vanilla environment, discussion, conversation only group event like a munch is going to be the best bet for you. And then you can talk to people and they can know that you're new. And then you can tell them like, I'm excited about trying a play party, but I'm going to go by myself and I'm kind of nervous about that. You can find people that, you know, you can get more acquainted with that can go to this party with you and kind of help steer you around, introduce you to people and kind of just like, you know, put you under their wing a little bit, kind of help you navigate that for the first time and hopefully reduce the amount of stress that you get. But that would generally be my technique. And also, if you're going to a munch, you know, cruising and people being weird can happen at any time. But if what you're worried about is random strange man approaching me, it is less likely that will happen at a munch than it will happen at a dungeon. Now, I have had strange people approach me at dungeons before. I have had people try to talk to me in a scene. I've had people try to get my attention while I am doing something for my dominant partner. I have had people try to put themselves in my path to start talking to me. That has happened. I luckily haven't experienced like, super aggressive, like, oh, I think they're trying to hit on me type stuff, but also like, I'm asexual, maybe not always the best in being able to tell these things. But like, I've had people like start conversations with me that I don't really want to keep talking to. And like, if that happens, I like, I'm polite, but I find a natural end to the conversation and then say like, it was nice talking to you, like, see you around. Like, I don't say that I'm going to go do something else. I don't say I'm going to watch something else, because then they might try to invite themselves to it. They might try to say like, oh, like, that sounds fun, I'll come with you. It's like, then you have to say, well, I don't really want you to come with me. Just say like, oh, I don't know, just find like a natural way to leave the conversation. Or if they're weird, find a non-natural way to leave the conversation. If somebody's making you uncomfortable, you can say the house safe word. If they're really not taking the hint that you don't want to talk to them, or they're cornering you, or making you uncomfortable, or making passes at you, or trying to touch you, anything like that, if they're doing anything like that you don't like, you can just be like, rad, and then like, or safe word, and then like that'll get DM's attention, and they're gonna come the fuck over and be like, what the fuck's going on here? And then they will make it their problem, and they will solve it for you. So yeah. Also a good point, talk to group leaders about it so that they are aware of, well, actually this is answering a different question, but it also applies to like being new, is like, you can, if you're really nervous, if you don't feel like there's a good entry point for new people around where you live, you can message event organizers and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm super curious about going to one of your parties, but I'm new, so I'm like nervous about being there by myself, like, do you have any advice for me? And, they'll probably be more than happy to give you specific advice for their particular venue. I also recommend going really early in the night if you want to actually meet people and have conversations. If you go later on, if you go at like 11, go at 10, people are going to be in the middle of their scenes already and are going to be like in the vibe of it. And that might be a good time for you to show up if you don't want to have conversations with people. But if you do, when people are already kind of like paired off into their conversation groups and doing their scenes, it's going to be a lot harder to break in, when the party's already been going for an hour. Yeah. Alrighty, see you, Lexi. Good luck. I'll see you around. Okay, all right, so that is that question. Lots of like newbie intro questions, which we love. That is fantastic. We love the newbies. How do you not let kink shamers get to you, especially people who misunderstand niche kinks? I mean, it does get to me, which is why I make YouTube videos about it. Like, that's kind of a glib answer, but like, I mean, that is part of how I cope with like dealing with the annoyance of people who are kink shaming, is like I try to make it something productive by like, well, I know there are people who are misunderstanding that are malicious and are not ever going to change their minds, and so like, who gives a fuck? But there are people who genuinely don't know about this because it isn't something that gets taught about. People don't have conversations about this, so it's a lot easier if I instead like turn it into something productive and make it into a video and kind of push back on that in a way that I am able to, because of my position, not of authority, but just like my job as like my career. I have the ability to do that. But like in everyday life, like if I'm just, I don't know, outside of work mode, or just seeing people on the internet talking about stuff and they're being kink shaming weird people, or they're saying something, how do I handle that? I mean, I think it's not even something I really have to actively manage around at this point. I do feel a sensation of like eye rolling annoyance of like, oh my god, here we go again. And that can, that exists, that's a thing. But I recognize that their reactions are born either out of like ignorance or disgust or hatred, and that's like their own emotional experience, they're kind of projecting onto kink. And so if anything, I feel sort of bad for them that either their knowledge is so limited, or their creativity is so limited, or that they've had a life where they've only had negative experiences with this, and so they can't understand that it can be beneficial or fun, or that people like it. So there's like sort of a like eye roll, and then there's a like, oh, I feel bad for them because like I know that they have limitations and they can't understand this. And so like, I feel bad that they have the limitation a little bit. And then I just move on with my life. Like, I don't get invested in it. I don't like think about it in any level of detail. I just accept that kind of thing will exist. And that's part of life. And just kind of let it water off a duck's back. Just don't let it stick in your brain. Don't think about it too much. I think that's probably the main thing is like, don't let it become a point of rumination. Don't make an argument. Don't get embroiled in like a 20 tweet long thread with somebody where you're just like going into it. Don't do that. It's not good for you. It's no one wins. You will lose if you do that. Doesn't matter if you technically get more upvotes or if people agree with you. You will still lose because you wasted your time. So not getting embroiled in it, not starting arguments, not going into back and forths, not insisting and trying that hard to be understood by a specific individual person, I think will serve you really well. And just not letting yourself get into that. Not letting your brain get sticky around it and then just saying like, well, they don't get it, but that doesn't affect me in any way. And then just moving on and spending time on people that do get it, that are like-minded people, and that aren't going to be shamey and weird. Yeah, also be very aware of the kind of venue you're going to. Like, look out and see, is this like a dungeon or is it a sex club? That's a good point. Yeah, because there's definitely people that have like kink nights at swinger venues or sex parties or group sex things, and don't go to those if they're not your thing. Maybe they are your thing. Maybe you're into the idea of a gangbang. Okay, great. Go to those parties. But if what you want is to see people do a flogging and not people just, I don't know. I don't actually even know what people do at like swingers events. I don't know what people get up to. You don't want to see that. Don't go to that. Check it out. See the venue. Usually it'll be fairly obvious if it is a swingers party because the advertising will be very sexual. There'll be stuff about alcohol. There'll be different prices for different genders. Like, it'll be obvious. You'll know. Look at the signs. Just read the event description. Okay, good questions from Reddit. Love all the questions. Okay, my like voice/throat is still really dry. I'm gonna try to like get through the next half an hour, but we will see. I just lost where I was in the chat. Scrolling. I saw that South Carolina question again. Oh, that's funny. Never not be funny. Oh, did the stream drop? I haven't seen any stream health stuff from YouTube, but let me check. Oh, it says stream is healthy. Stream health is excellent. So it doesn't look like it, but there could have been something with OBS maybe that YouTube didn't pick up. There's not any weather happening. I guess it's a little windy, but. Pizza night sounds really good. I made a bunch of taco stuff yesterday. I made like refried beans. I made like a lime rice that was like, I could have used more flavor in it, but it's pretty good. So I'm gonna have, it's gonna be taco Thursday, Friday, Saturday for me. But I do want to make homemade pizza again soon. Homemade pizza. It doesn't taste like pizza from a pizza place, but it's like its own different thing. Yeah, the question should stay if you close and reopen the stream because it gets saved somewhere else. And you can always watch it. You can watch an answer to it in the VOD too if you miss something. Did you see there's a new helmet in the new Diablo that was literally a puppy hood? No. I'm Googling it. I probably won't be able to find it, but I'm gonna try. Oh my god, wait. Diablo 4 puppy cam. No, live and cuter than ever. Wait, is that what it is? No, this is all from 2023. This is about pets. So I don't see a puppy hood, but also I don't really know what to Google for that. So maybe, oh, anyways, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I have been to CSPC events. I don't live there anymore, but I used to go there back in the day, and they're pretty good. I like them. They have a lot of different events going on. It's a good space. So they're definitely one of the places in Seattle. We'll go into further detail than that, but I've been meaning to go back. They have like a goth industrial night that I've wanted to go to for forever, but it's like I was driving up to Seattle and it's a whole thing, and then I gotta find a place to stay, and I gotta figure out if I'm bringing my dog or not. I have wanted to go up and just like take the train or something and go up, take the train, find a place that's like, I don't know, like a cheap place that's like near to where all of the kink stuff is in Seattle, and just go up there for like literally a day, like one night. Oh shit, dream did drop. God damn it. I think it came back. Oh no. Okay. I figured out I'm hypermobile too. That was like, no. I thought, okay, this is unrelated to everything we've been talking about. But I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be able to do this with my elbow. And also like a bunch of things with like my fingers and my hands. Like I can do like weird things with like my fingertips and stuff. And with my spine, and also I can like pop my shoulder in and out. So I figured out that I'm hypermobile. I don't know what to do with this information at all. I don't know. I have the cool kind of hypermobility where like it makes my muscles really tight, and then nothing else happens. Like, maybe if I don't know, I just actually solved some questions I've had about like, why is it I can get so back flexible, but then like my fucking hamstrings are uncooperative. But I guess it explains why I have some feelings in my shoulder when I do a lot of like when I've done like TKs and stuff before. It's like, oh yeah, because your shoulders fucking suck. So that's why. Elbow twins, yeah, it's like the big thing. Oh yeah, I can do the like behind the back like prayer hands thing. Apparently I'm supposed to be able to do that. There's lots of things that I can do with my body that I was like, oh, I just thought it was normal. I just thought you could just do that, which is weird, and I should have realized earlier, because way back in the day when I was like a preteen, my piano teacher told me that I have double jointed hands and elbows. And I was like, oh, I just thought it was like, I didn't know what that meant. And I was like, okay. Cause I can do the pinky thing, but I can't do the thumb. I don't know. Does this count as being able to do the thumb thing? I feel like it doesn't count. I can't really, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. Like my thumb doesn't really do anything weird. Oh yeah, I've gotta just not overextend my elbows. I do have like my elbow like pops sometimes, so that's probably the main thing. But now I guess I know I'm vindicated about why I don't like TKs. It's because my shoulders and elbows are not in a great position when you do those. Oh yeah, the hitchhiker's thumb. Yeah, my thumb doesn't do. I guess I don't have anything on like the thumb. The thumb side doesn't. I don't have any hypermobility on the thumb side, but the pinky side is like, which actually kind of makes sense. Now that I think about it, because whenever I do arm bondage, the pinky side is always the part that goes numb. The thumb side's always fine. So actually, maybe that makes sense. I don't know. It's a thing. Being able to do prayer hands behind the back with like no previous training is like, it doesn't necessarily for sure mean the hypermobile, but it is a sign of potential hypermobility, because generally that requires some level of like flexibility training for most people. It's like if you can bend over and like touch your palms flat against the floor, without any kind of flexibility training, that usually means you're beyond like normal range of motion. I don't know what to do with this information. I don't know what to do with kink stuff. No, okay, I'm hypermobile, but I've never had an injury because of it. I've never as an adult, I've never dislocated anything, never had an injury, never had any nerve issues. So I'm like, I guess I just keep doing the same things I've been doing, and like it's mostly fine. Like I work out like basically every day. I've been weightlifting for like 2 years at this point, consistently post pandemic. Like I don't know. Like it's like just gotta be aware, I guess. But like I already had like a good base of knowledge for like core strength and how to like engage my muscles properly, and like I think that's mostly helped me not accidentally fuck myself up. But you know, I guess also part of it is I also do resistance band exercises as like a warm-up every day that I work out, so that's also probably helped, I imagine. Anyways, that's my hypermobility thing. If I ever find out more about what to do with hypermobility and kink, I will let you all know. if I find anything that's like a helpful resource, because it is like, you know, the overlaps between neurodivergence, kink, hypermobility, fucking what else? There's other things too that are in that like comorbidity soup. But it's a common issue. Lots of people with EDS in the kink community. Not that I have EDS, but it's one of the ranges of hypermobility that can exist. All right, more questions. What is non-sexual CNC? At the risk of sounding redundant, it is consensual non-consent that is done in a non-consensual or capacity. So, as a hypermobile person, you're less likely to break or fracture bones, but more likely to dislocate or tear connective tissue. Well, it's a good thing I've been doing resistance band exercises to like strengthen my like rotator cuff and like other things the whole time I've been working out. So that's cool. Go me. Lucked out on that one, I guess. But what is non-sexual CNC? So non-sexual CNC is a way of approaching consensual non-consent play in a kink context where you're not involving genital stimulation or sex stuff. So a lot of CNC people generally think about it as being like kidnapping stuff or like sexual interrogation stuff or free use or things like that. And that's definitely part of it. But CNC isn't just about like sexual resistance play. It can also just be about, and I forget the exact definition that I used in the video that I made, so I'm probably gonna like slightly alter it here, but it is about, like actually, you know what, I'll just so I don't like confuse the matter, I will just pull up the video that I made and I'll just read the definition from my script, so that way all nice and concise, because there's a reason why I write things down. Yeah, so there's like the one way of looking at it that's also more expansive is like CNC is when you consent to having your consent disregarded, but I think that's like kind of vague and like what does that really mean? So the way that I mean it is it's when someone consents to not have their consent explicitly obtained for certain activities in the future. So it's an agreement that you make that like, hey, around this specific area, you're allowed to not check in with me and just do stuff. You're allowed to just do things to me. So that could be sexual stuff, like surprise blowjob time. That could also be like, you are allowed to force feed me things. You are allowed to compel me to strip naked. You are allowed to toss me over your shoulder and spank me whenever you want. And that can mean like maybe you resist and say no, maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it, right? It's not the pleasure portion of it, whether sexual pleasure or otherwise, is not necessarily a big factor. The physical fighting back is not necessarily a factor. those things can be part of it. For a lot of people, the reason they like CNC is they like having a reason to resist. People can like it because it can be a way of compelling them to do things they don't like, but that they want to experience anyways. But it's more about giving up on a very basic level. The thing you have to have is that you're telling someone, it's okay to do things to me, even if I don't consent to it in the future. And that could mean, like, you can just put me in the car and take me wherever you want, and you don't have to tell me what we're doing. You can just surprise me with activities. And that could mean they take you to an abandoned warehouse that they found the other day, and they string you up by your ankles and whip you. Or it could mean that they take you to a beach cove that they found, and like you have a cute little picnic together. Like, you know, but they don't plan things, they don't tell you about it. You are not given the opportunity to consent. Now, I think the other part of this that makes it work that people don't always think about is safe word usage and things like that. Now, I maybe this is like slightly judgmental, but I think that safe words can be used in CNC, but it's like keeping them the way that you would in a scene is kind of like having training wheels on your CNC a little bit. So safe words can exist in CNC, but they usually get used a little differently than they would in a regular scene or in like a typical DS relationship. So when you're looking at a standard issue, like pick-up play scene scenario, you know, you have red, you have yellow, you have green, right? And, you know, if you don't want something to happen, you want it to stop immediately, you say red. Or if you want to have a check-in or something's not working right, you say yellow. And usually for a CNC context, the thing that keeps it in that CNC space is an understanding that, okay, even if we do still have a safe word, it's kind of more of a emergencies only, break glass if necessary kind of thing. So that way the magic of the CNC doesn't get lost. Because if you negotiate for a CNC type relationship or a play scene or something, and then like immediately as soon as you're uncomfortable, you say red, like, well, then what the fuck was the point? Like, we're making you do things. That's the thing. And so if you just gotta have faith and have a partner where when you're doing this, they're not going to just like instantly say red as soon as they're like a little bit uncomfortable. They're going to save it for times when it's generally really needed to work through being compelled to do something or not knowing something or not being given information and operating in the dark a little bit, which can also make people uncomfortable. Compared to like typical kink, especially, again, we're kind of like bog standard approaches to kink where typically you're really thoroughly negotiating everything. You're going into what's going to happen in a high level of detail, and, you know, safe word usage or like check-in stuff is a lot more commonplace. But non-sexual just means it's like you're doing that in a context where like genitals and sexuality isn't involved. You know, already gave some examples, but it can still be compelling for people even if you're not involved in their genitals. And I don't find that hard to understand, but some people do, I guess. One of the most helpful things about learning on hypermobile is learning to not put my joints in situations that set them uncomfortably when I undo them. Okay, so like TKs. Everything just keeps going back to like, yes, TKs. I have a reason to not enjoy them. It's because it makes my shoulders and elbows feel weird, and now I know why. Spinning the wheel of activities. You could spin the wheel of activities and then have it all be different question marks, and then only the top can see what's on the back side of it. It's like Wheel of Fortune, but if you didn't know what any of the numbers on the wheel were, and then Regis flipped it over. Not Regis. I forget who the host for fucking Wheel of Fortune is. They flip it over and go, oh, yes. It's actually, you know that TikTok trend where it's like letting my girlfriend pick our day together, and then they like put up like one says like go to the beach, and the other one says like go to the mall, right? And then she has to pick left or right, and then she picks left, okay? And left is beach, so you go to the beach. And then it's like, I guess a kinky version of this would be like dunk her in the ocean versus like give her a foot rub, right? And she gets her head dunked in the ocean, right? So it's like, it's kind of that stuff. There's like an element of mystery. You're consenting to not know what's going to happen ahead of time, and then to like broadly go along with whatever happens next within the confines of like, here are my PTSD triggers. Don't trigger me, please. Here's my absolute hard nose that I'm not going to do. And usually, like, those fence lines around CNC are like, here's like really big pillar things. It's not just like, oh, I don't like being tickled, so like, can you maybe don't do that, please? Like, usually if people are like constructing a relationship around CNC, they might not actively say yes to that, but they're not actively saying no to like tickling either. The big ticket stuff is gonna be like trauma triggers, bad memories, things that are like absolutely like revolting, disgusting. I would end the relationship if I had to experience this kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, maybe you, you know, have someone who's like very invested in their appearance and like their appearance is tied to their work. So like doing something to alter their appearance would be one of those boundary points around the CNC. Right? Like, you can't tell me to like shave my head because of my job I have to have like hair is like a big, maybe they work as a model or something. So like if they had their head shaved, it would affect their ability to get work, you know? So things like that. But anyways, I teach a class about all this, so we could go into a lot more detail, but it's more organized if I do it during a class. Something that my dom and top has started doing when he ties a TK on me, we learned from Hajime Kanoko, is that if you tie the hands a bit looser, then once you tie the rest of the TK, you can drop your hands. It creates a more comfortable position for the elbows and creates less tension in the shoulders. That's a good one. That's a good one. I also just like don't find myself tying TKs at all. It's a Takata Kote. It is a type of... how do I describe this in the most general terms possible? It is a shape you can make during rope bondage, yes. I feel like that used the least amount of technical words, so hopefully that helped explain what it is. In my case, learning to not tuck my legs up underneath me when I sit. I have a recliner in my den, so I remember to keep my legs on the footrest in front of me. It wonders for my knees. Fuck, every day I am always pretzeling myself on this chair. And I'm doing it right now, and I just shifted to do it a little less. But I'm always doing weird things with my knees and ankles on this, so I don't know. All right, let's see. We got 15 minutes left, and hopefully get to some more questions here. You sound like my psychiatrist. She was like, the 30s are great. You got things figured out, might have a stable job, literally everything else you're saying. Well, maybe we're both right then. Yeah. I'm going to my first play party this weekend, and I'm more nervous about disability having a rollator than being 22. Oh, I don't know. What is a rollator? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, I will tell you that every single time I go to a kink event, I see somebody using a mobility aid. That might not be the case where you live. Obviously depends on the building and like how accessible things are. A less accessible building is gonna like, you know, prevent some people from going to events there, obviously, because ADA compliance doesn't necessarily get enforced everywhere or apply to all buildings. So there is that. But especially when I go to bigger events, and I always make sure to highlight this when I talk about events like this, like for example, Kink Fest. As far as I can tell, best spot in the country for kink disability accessibility across the board, whether it's in classes, physically in spaces, reserved seating, the way that the dungeon layout flows, how wide the aisles are, everything is very thoughtfully done to be as accessible as possible. And you will see people using like all different kinds of mobility aids, all kinds of guide dogs, like you name it. It is a thing that I have seen people use at Kink Fest, in the dungeon, in classes, just in and around the event. Now, not all places that have like regular weekly events are going to be to that scale, obviously, but I would wager a guess that you will not be alone, and that if you go to events for long enough, you will see other people that are just like you, that are using the same or similar things. However, I imagine that a big concern is, like, usually there's a lot of things, able-bodied people being fucking weird about stuff. hopefully, and I wish this was more of a thing in conversations with new people in the kink community, is having conversations around like, don't ask invasive questions, don't stare at things, just act normal, because it is normal. It's not weird. Don't make it a big thing. Or I know there's also, I don't know how big of a concern this is, but I know there also are like people that are worried about like getting fetishized because of, you know, their medical conditions or devices that they use, because there are people who have feelings about that that might not have an appropriate sense of boundaries, unfortunately. But I think if you're worried, if your concerns are with like accessing the space or like, you know, being able to do things, I really recommend, assuming they don't have information already, but contacting event organizers ahead of time. You know, tell them maybe if you have specific concerns about things, and hopefully they can either tell you what kind of accommodations they already have, or they can ask you if they don't have them what you would need in order to be able to access the space based on what they currently have, and hopefully they can help you work through that. But I think it's perfectly normal to be nervous about it, especially if you don't have like pictures of the space that you can go from, or you don't know anyone who's been there before. But you know, if you have time, maybe send them a quick message and just hopefully get some answers. And knowing things will hopefully make it a little bit less scary. DomCon New Orleans is really good about accessibility. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. I think a lot of the hotel events are also good for it, because hotels are generally pretty good with accessibility, you know, generally speaking. I went to the beach by myself after a really bad breakup, and it was the best time. Solo vacations are top tier. I think that's great, especially if you can go to like a nice, sunny, warm beach. Also, I am a warm weather and a beach person, so that does sound really nice to me. But I think you have to like think about how you deal with the breakup specifically. Like, I could also see that being wrong for the kind of person who ruminates a lot. Like, if you're somebody, especially if it was a breakup where like you didn't want it to happen and the other person like broke up with you, then it can lead to a lot of like, if you have a lot of solo free time and you're not doing a lot of activities and you're just like wandering around the woods, wandering around the beach, your brain might really take up that free space to like think about the breakup, think about the person, think about why you broke up, play it back in your head a million times. And that, you know, might not be what you want to experience. It might not be beneficial. So I would just be cautious about that. But I do generally agree that beach vacations are a nice time. Yeah, if you're going to find a mentor too, if you're new in a space and you're looking for mentors, finding an older mentor is like, okay, but also like as we established earlier, lots of people get into the scene at an older age, so it's hard to tell how experienced someone is based on age. Somebody can be 40 and have like just as much experience as you do. Somebody can be 50 and it can be their first night at a dungeon. So age doesn't really tell you a whole lot, and I would recommend, especially if you are, you know, maybe really young and kind of like, I'm literally 18, so anyone is going to be older than me. Like, finding someone who's on the same side of the slash as you is the best thing that you can do. Because, like, what the fuck is a dom mentor going to like teach you as a submissive? I am very side-eye at doms mentoring new submissives, because at least in my experience, you know, when I was new to the scene and I was a lot younger, I had people reach out to me to offer to be my mentor as a dom. And looking back on it now, I can pretty clearly say that what they were trying to do is they wanted me to be a submissive for them without the level of commitment that, or the explicit negotiation that it would take to have someone actually be like your partner. Like, they want to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to have to, like, you know, they want to have you essentially be the like the submissive equivalent of being a side chick. Like, they want to say, oh no, I don't have a kind of obligations to you. I'm just training you. I'm just helping you learn what it's like to be a submissive. It's like, that's just called having a DS relationship, my guy. So I'm very side-eye of that. I think there are some people who can do it, but it has to be in a very personally detached, desexualized, teacher kind of way. And unfortunately, most people are not equipped to do that, especially if you're talking about a male dom trying to mentor a female submissive. You know, maybe they're a gay guy, and if they're a gay male dom, that's great. But if you're talking about a heterosexual guy trying to mentor a female submissive, a lot of times that's them just trying to soft launch you into sucking their penis. It's just like, well, if you wanted me, well, now it's very important. All doms will want you to have deep throat training, so you really should get started right away. They always think they're being so clever. They always think that they've got it all figured out, and they don't, Bandita. They do not have it figured out, sweet girl. They think they're tricksy, but they're not. A dom training a sub and someone being a mentor are kind of different things, though. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are doms who say that they are mentoring you, but then they are doing sub training with you, right? Like they just are like, well, yeah, I'm your mentor, and that means I'm going to train you on how to be a submissive. That's what I'm saying you should look for. A mentor should be a like detached personal advisor who can, like, in a sort of peer-to-peer, sort of detached way, help you with, like, navigating the community, learning how to negotiate. Like, it should not be no training, no sort of, like, teaching you the ropes of, like, how to do this kind of thing. Like, they're doing that. Nope. Sorry, you should not. A mentor shouldn't play with you. People say that. If a mentor wants to play with you, do a scene with you, receive service from you, train you physically how to perform a kink activity in some way, shape, or form, they don't want a mentorship. They want a sneaky on the side, no labels, don't ask, don't tell kink DS relationships. Probably just, like, don't do that, honestly. Yeah, wouldn't it make more sense for an experienced sub to train a new sub anyways? Yes. Yes, it would. That is correct. Also, completely valid just to do your own research and figure out on your own. Like, I didn't have a mentor. I read books, I read blogs, and then I just started winging it, baby. And just started doing it. And I feel like that actually really helped me out. I think that was a good choice in the long run, because I don't even know what kind of mentors I would have found where I lived, and the ones that approached me as like a cold call type thing were not the best. So I think it all worked out in the end. And I also had the opportunity, like, I play with other people who were my age, who are also newer to the community. I think that also, like, made it work well. Like, yes, lots of things were learned. Obviously, you know, we weren't compatible, we didn't stay together. I think that all worked out for the best, but I don't think it would have been good had I had this, like, you know, really experienced person who was like, I've been a dom for 20 years and I've done this and that. Like, I don't think that would have been too much of a power imbalance, I think, honestly, at the end of the day. All right, trying to get to at least one or two more questions here. Do you have any advice for managing mobility aids / disability at things like play parties? I'm going to one for the first time soon after being in the scene for a year. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm going as a guest, so I don't really have direct contact with the owners. Maybe I could search for it. Well, hopefully, if whoever you're a guest with, hopefully they can give you information on how to contact people, or they would feel comfortable asking on your behalf. I do think that is a good question, though. If that's going to be like their first frontline thing, is to communicate with the whoever is doing the party, whoever owns the venue, and trying to get in touch with them. But I think other people probably gave good advice from what I saw in the comments that I don't know how I would necessarily add onto, but just to highlight for future people that are listening to this. I would message the event contact to ask about accessibility ahead of time on FetLife if possible. I would also expect to potentially need to explain your access needs. Yes, very true. Re-disability, in my experience, the kink scene is more disabled than you may expect. You may run into access issues, but in my experience, there's a lot of us. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad idea, but as a wheelchair user, I feel more comfortable knowing for sure, but I have different access needs, but you know best. Yeah. Actually, that might be a thing too, is if there's like a group for this event on FetLife, or like a group that's related to like the geographic area of this party, you could also put a post in like a group thing on FetLife, or maybe in a Discord chat or something, like saying specifically like, hey, this is the mobility aid that I use. I'm planning on going to this party like tomorrow or this weekend. Does anyone have any information about like, you know, whether it's like the layout of the space, or if there's stairs, if there's an escalator, if there's an elevator? It probably wouldn't be an escalator, but like, I don't know. Maybe something is happening in an abandoned mall. I don't know. You know, ask those questions that you would need to have answered. I certainly know that there are play parties and things that happen that I've been to before, where like maybe it's on 2 levels and maybe half of it's only accessible by stairs, or maybe there's an elevator that'll take you down to the area that the event is happening in. So there's definitely ways to get more information. Oh, dropped the thing I was messing with. Okay. The live chat questions. All right, more questions. I've always found CNC to be intriguing. Can you please explain exciting and safe approaches, scenes for CNC with a safe partner? 2, is it a healthy kink? Okay, so this is a really big question. And I cannot get into that in the level of detail that I would want to in a live stream. So I'm going to say, look out for classes happening really soon about CNC that I'm going to be teaching, and I'm going to be able to get into all of this. I have a very methodical approach for like vetting partners, establishing a relationship, like figuring out the guidelines of your relationship, your scene goals, your relationship goals. I have a whole thing, a whole template you can use to like go through this step by step. I think you'll find really, really helpful. But I only have like 3 minutes, so it's a 2-hour-long class. I'm not going to be able to get into it right now. So instead, I'm going to answer question number 2, which is it a healthy kink? And the answer to this is more complicated than just saying like, yeah, it's totally healthy, it's fine, don't worry about it. If I am answering on a very general level of like, is it morally acceptable to have CNC as a kink? I think it's totally fine. I think the majority of people engaging in CNC in BDSM are doing so in a thoughtful, intentional, negotiated way. I think what counts as healthy is subjective. Like, I think people are allowed to opt into things that might hurt them. I think people are allowed to opt into things that, you know, might like scar them, that might like have complications for them. I think people can knowingly opt into that. So I don't necessarily think that healthy means like lack of harm or lack of consequences. I think it means like, do you know what you're doing? Are you doing it intentionally? Do you accept the potential consequences? And are you doing it like of your own volition? Can you say no to this? Are you being pressured into it? Those are more important questions for me to consider. But I think that's different than saying whether or not it's a healthy kink on an individual level. And I think only you can really answer that for yourself. Only you know what your motivations are, what you're hoping to get out of it, your general experience level and ability. Like, I think it's one thing for somebody who has, you know, 5 years of experience in kink, who has a long-term established healthy relationship that has a high level of trust. It's one thing for them to start doing CNC on that basis with that level of knowledge and experience and trust, to do it because, you know, they want to progress their DS relationship, or they want to be able to play with maybe some emotions. One thing for that couple, totally different thing if you're brand new to kink, never done kink before, never had to vet a partner, never negotiated before, suddenly deciding that CNC is your thing and to just like find somebody to do it with and to wing it and to just like get into really extreme play right away. And then like the reason behind why you're doing it is you're like recreating trauma experiences that you haven't integrated yet. You're like punishing yourself because you think that you're a bad person. This is like what you deserve. You're like pursuing CNC out of some kind of like lack of self-esteem, self-hatred, trying to punish yourself, trying to find somebody to like self-harm you by proxy. if it's any of those kinds of motivations, if you have an inkling that like, well, I think I'm drawn to CNC because I, believe I'm not worthy of anyone really loving me, and I think this is how I'm going to get anyone to touch me. It's rough to be honest with yourself about that, but I think you have to really deeply understand, like, are you doing this because you think it sounds like fun and because you really trust your partner? Are you doing this because of like some kind of negative self-belief? Now, there are people who get into edgy kinks that get really lucky, who manage to find a partner right away that meshes with them really well, who they do find to be safe and trustworthy. There are people who get into kinks originally for like maybe less than healthy reasons where it works out and it's fine. But for every person where they have that experience, there's somebody else where they just like crash and burn and it really negatively affects them. So be very self-aware, be honest with yourself about your motivations and why you're doing this, and really take your time to meet somebody and to work your way up to this. If you can't do basic entry-level kink negotiations and scenes and vetting of partners and all of that, if you can't do that, then you're not going to be ready to do CNC. So just, really take your time to understand the basics and then get into it. But with that being said, I think that's about all that I have time for. What's the best way to find classes? Again, I'm just in broken record today. FetLife. FetLife is whether it's actually specifically classes, I'd recommend FetLife, and I'd recommend, though these places will cross post to FetLife, so it's kind of redundant. I also really like what the fuck is the Forbidden Tickets is also a good website. I would check them out. But with that being said, all I have time for today. Thank you all so much for joining me and asking your questions. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I will see you again next week. Stay safe, have fun, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.